G'day guys and welcome to Lift Talk. This is episode 62 and I was joined by Brittany Romas. We spoke about her recent second place finish at SBD Cup Australia 2025. We also delved into her work as a physio and now a new coach. Enjoy the episode and make sure to subscribe and leave a like.
Look, I wasn't going to say it, but you were.
Me.
And I think you maybe have to have the smallest amount of arrogance as well.
You got any of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Try to avoid stuff like what I did. Like literally the one time that I've ever done that. Brittany Romas, thanks for joining me.
Hi.
You said you're a bit nervous.
Yeah.
What's up?
Well, I mean, I've been listening to your podcast for 6 years.
Do you feel honoured?
Yeah, I really do.
I'd sent you a bunch of questions and then you sent me some questions, bringing back weekly weights.
Yeah, legit.
What a good time.
Let's do it.
So you're here for SBD Cup, which
Yeah.
you just came second over the weekend.
I did.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
You've mentioned a lot publicly on Instagram and stuff like how much the comp means to you. And, you know, you're someone who's won nationals twice, been to worlds twice or once? Twice. And you still like speak about SBD Cup in like a very different way.
Yeah.
Like tell me what it means to you and how it's different to other high level comps.
I think there's a very obvious prestige to a world championships, but I think because it's so far away and there's that physical, tangible distance between what's going on in Australia and what's going on the world platform, I think it doesn't feel as physically close to home, obviously, but I think it also feels a little bit detached from what's going on in the local community. And then I think with nationals, because it is such a large event, it doesn't feel as personal. And so I think what SBD Cup does really well is it has that aspect of high performance, elite performance, esteem in the same way that Worlds does, but it also feels very much ingrained within our local community here. And I think that's really important because I think particularly because powerlifting it's been around for a while, but it's not had the popularity in Australia that it does have overseas in the same way. And I think we're now establishing our community here and we're sort of catching up with the rest of the world. And I think it's really important for us not just to be looking at those high-level performers overseas, but it's really important to see that people in our home country have the ability to perform to the same standards, or, you know, we're catching up to those standards, and to know that if that's possible in my community, then maybe that's going to be possible for me. So I think it really drives up the expectation of what is achievable for people in Australia.
Yeah, see, like the reason I love SBD Cup, and, you know, you mentioned some of the reasons, like Worlds does seem a bit distant, but it's also huge. Like hundreds of lifters lift at Worlds.
Yeah.
Same as nationals. A couple hundred lifters, or 150 lifters I think we had this year. It's so condensed at SBD Cup. It's like literally one session.
Yeah.
One group of females, one group of males. And it seems more like, yeah, condensed, I guess is probably the best word I can describe it, where like it's like record, next attempt's a record, next attempt's a record, next attempt's a record. Whereas like at a nationals, you might see like 2 lifters in one flight battling it out for a record. And then the other like 10 are just like kind of filling the numbers.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a spectacle in a way.
That's what I love about SBD Cup, is that it's like there's so much action in such a short period of time. So talk me through your performance last year. Obviously you won last year, the inaugural champ, and you came back this year. What were your expectations going into this year? Obviously Abby Wallace won this year and we kind of all knew she would win.
We did.
Provided she made weight.
Yeah.
Did that like change how you felt going into the competition, that you probably thought you couldn't win?
No, I think I always expected Abby to be able to pull that off. Like there was no doubt in my mind that she would come in and put on an absolutely incredible performance. And I was looking forward to witnessing that. Like she's such an amazing athlete. And so for me, it was always let's come in and come second. For me, winning SBD Cup last year was incredible, and I think for me, I was more so just happy to be a part of the event this year, knowing that I got to move up a weight class instead of a record in a different weight class, so I had that advantage. But I think it would have been not greedy. I don't know what the word is for it, but I definitely didn't think that I was going to come in and win. It was really just about having a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, Abby kind of ran her own race, and in a way, you did win. Like the for the rest, because it was like Abby and then the rest, and then it was like a battle for second.
I'm the second tier first.
Yeah, there was like
it's not second place. It's
first
second tier
place was
first.
like unassailable. You know, if she made her opener, she would have won. And then there was like an actual battle for second, which you came out on top. So that was super cool. Were you happy with your performance?
I was exceptionally happy with my performance, and I have a really good team behind me, and I have Bo and Lee, who've handled me at numerous competitions before, and they're really good at getting the best out of me, and I think that's exactly what they did, and I really met the expectations of the performance that I was going to achieve for the day, and I have confidence in my reliability to get on the platform and execute. So yeah, I was really happy with that.
So the 76 class is kind of heating up.
It is.
And
women in Australia in general are just heating up. It's so good to see.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the cool things about SBD Cup as well, is that you have these relatively lower records that certain lifters will attack. Like you moved down last year to attack the 69 record and you blew it up. So then there was no one in 69 this year because you set the bar so high, but everyone flocked to 76. And now we're seeing like this depth in that weight class, which wasn't present 12 months ago. How do you feel about like the level of talent in the 76 now, and like how do you feel about your prospects at like nationals next year and stuff, and what's the plans there?
I think that as an athlete you have two options. You can be intimidated by those around you, or you can be inspired by them. And I think for me to see what other people are doing is inspiring, and they show me what's possible. I think when you're out in the field by yourself, you don't have a lot of confidence in what you can possibly do, because it's really hard you can't witness it elsewhere. Whereas when I can see other women in Australia doing amazing things, you know, squatting over 200 kilos, you know, deadlifts are going over 200 kilos very regularly, you kind of go, oh my God, like I'm nowhere near where
the limit
my
is.
top end potential is.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you then don't have a lot of fear going into the unknown. You're kind of like, oh no, I think I can actually do that.
It's kind of like the 4-minute mile. Once that was broken,
then you get all these
can't
people
remember
afterwards.
the guy's name. Once he broke it, there was like hundreds in the following year. It's almost like you have to see someone achieve something in order for you to be able to believe that you can achieve it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and you know, it's one thing to see people halfway over the world do that, but to see that here, I think it's much more relatable.
Yeah. So you will stay in the 76 for nationals next year?
Yeah, well, I haven't qualified as an under 69. But yeah, I think I will. As to what I'll do in the future, I don't know. I think it's really worked well for me to sort of fluctuate between being a little bit lighter and a little bit heavier over the last year or so, particularly in helping me recover from how many competitions I did and have done in the last 3 years. I think at one point it was like I was competing every 3 months. And so being able to put on a little bit of weight helped me tolerate that, and then cutting down to under 69 and maintaining my strength has just opened up more potential for me to then put on a little bit more weight and watch my strength go up again.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. And I guess like going to SBD Cup next year, provided you get an invite, which I'm sure you will.
Thanks.
I'm
going to take that soundbite. You know I love a soundbite.
I feel like we should make a rule that if you get on the podium, you get an automatic invite. If John's listening, that's going to be my new thing. Now going back into SBD Cup next year, there's almost like no weak records to target. It's like the playing field's been leveled, because the two that people targeted on the weekend were 76 and 57, and they've just been blown out. What did you break it by? 30,
I don't know.
32 kilos? What'd you do? 527, is that right?
527, yeah.
Yeah, so
what was it before?
32
590,
kilos. 495,
495, yeah.
And Abby broke it by 64 and a half.
Nuts.
So
Totally
like
nuts.
those two have just been blown up.
Yeah.
And now there's nothing quote unquote easy to target next year. So it'll be really interesting next year at SBD Cup for sure. Speaking of why you haven't qualified in the 69s yet is because you didn't do nationals this year.
Yeah.
Because you had a pretty horrific injury, which you've been very public about sharing your, the actual incident itself and then also the rehab and how hard it was for you to get back into it and everything, which brings us to our next topic of you as a physio.
Yeah.
So I want to talk more broadly about what common injuries you see in powerlifters as a physio. And do you even work with that many powerlifters or do you work with kind of a broad range of people?
I work with a very broad range of people, and most powerlifters that I see are via online consulting, which is a great niche. I think online consulting for physio just wasn't a thing prior to COVID. And then I think during COVID, when we had no other opportunity but to consult online, it just became a little bit more normalized. And then particularly in the context of powerlifters, there's not a lot of allied health professionals out there that really understand what we do. And so you kind of have to go fairly broad and try and find somebody who understands you. And so that puts online consulting sort of at the forefront of your mind in a way that it wouldn't be for other individuals in other sports or just general population. And so I think because I'm one of very few physios in Australia that offer that service, I am seeing a lot more powerlifters online. But just in general, I have a very broad scope of practice. I've been practicing for 7 years now, so really focused on treating clients who have really difficult differential diagnoses, who've probably been mismanaged elsewhere, complex neuro, very, very broad sort of clientele that I have, yeah.
So you mentioned people who've been mismanaged elsewhere. I still get clients who are at a very high level who go and see, particular physios who have a good reputation, who then tell them like, hey, your knee hurts a bit? Oh, maybe just don't squat for 2 weeks. And it drives me up the wall. So what would you recommend someone in that instance to do? Like what would be your first port of call in that instance?
I would say that there is always a time where rest is probably suitable, but is that for most people? Probably not. And so I would say if that's the only option that you've been given and there hasn't been a true consideration of, does this injury really need to have complete rest? Is there a way that we can modify what you're doing to bring down your overall stress so that this injury has time to recover? Are there other modalities that we can use to make sure that you're ready for training in a way that you might not be prior, which then could, allow you to achieve a little bit more without pain being a limiting factor? Let's look at all these other components of your life that may be contributing to why this injury is manifested. Is it easy for us to address those variables first as opposed to just rip you away from the sport that you really love doing? I think there's always a number of modifiable variables in the context of injury that are probably much better to address first. And then if you can't address those things, then it would be rest. But I think when you're consulting with an allied health professional, I think asking, have we really considered what this presentation is? And are we meeting my goals and expectations of what I want to still do? Is rest the only option that I have? If not, maybe get another opinion.
It's kind of like that meme, that meme with where you go see the doctor. Hey doctor, my such and such hurts. Well, stop doing that. And that's like the only advice they give you.
Well, it's not wrong because it is going to achieve the outcome that you desire, but many roads lead to Rome. And so it's like, is that the road that I want to take? Because it's probably the longest road. Because then you've got to consider, okay, after my injury, I'm going to be not as well trained as I am now. I'm probably going to lose a bit of strength and all of the adaptation that comes from regular strength training and exposure to my program. How long is it going to take for me to get back to where I was, even if I am going to overcome my pain quicker by taking the rest? Then restoring function after that makes the rehab process much longer.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of physios as well kind of treat the symptom, but don't try to find the root cause and don't try to like stop it where it grows as opposed to just like chopping off the branches at the top. What's your process with figuring out like a complex situation? You mentioned earlier you deal with a lot of complex situations. What is your process with like getting to the bottom of something like that?
So I've always considered myself as a bit of a detective because yes, you're treating conditions, but you're also treating a person, and you could have 5 people with the same condition, and the reason that that condition is manifested can be different amongst all 5 of those people. And then the reason that it persists is different amongst all of those 5 people. The way that they respond to rehab is going to be different. Their expectations of what rehab is going to involve is going to be different, and that's going to influence the outcome. There's so many variables in pain and rehab and return to function, even the relationship that you have with your therapist and what you think their capacity is to help you will influence your ability to return back to normality. So I think when I'm looking at an individual and trying to work out what's going on, I'm looking at, okay, diagnostically what is going on here? I think that's really important to know exactly what we're dealing with. Are we dealing with something that has origin in pathology? Are we dealing with something that is a little bit more benign and more so related to mechanical pain, something that's just related to overexposure and there is no tissue damage? It's merely just about trying to get this person's body tolerating what they're doing a little bit better. Then why has this manifested for that person? Pain doesn't just happen because of tissue damage. When you really boil it down, it's what is this person doing? Can their body tolerate it? And tolerance is, yes, about biomechanically what's going on, but is this person recovering? Are they eating well? Are they sleeping well? What is their stress management like? How is their movement loading their tissues? Is there a way that we can change their movement so that they've got a greater capacity to tolerate load before pain kicks in? General health-wise, is this person pretty healthy? Have they got other health conditions that are possibly obscuring their ability to manage this particular thing that we're looking at? And you're really picking and choosing from all of those sort of very, this very multifaceted picture and determining, okay, well, what's the lowest hanging fruit for this person? You're not going to go and try and climb the tree of all these variables and choose the hardest thing to modify. And that's going to look different for everybody. For some person, just changing the way that they move is a really, really low hanging fruit. For somebody else, it might be really difficult to change how they move. So would you do that? No. Some people changing how much sleep they get. Like they might have 3 kids and they work shift work and they also have to drive an hour to the gym to get their training done and they only have this amount of time to sleep. You can't just tell that person, get more sleep. So it's really trying to treat the condition, but then also see that within the context of the person that's in front of you.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like coaching in that to get the full picture, you have to ask the right questions.
A lot of what we do is just talking most of the time.
And that's the way that I feel about what I do as well. And I feel like a lot of coaches get this wrong. This is like a side rant, by the way. This isn't related to physio. But I feel like a lot of coaches who don't have the ability to look at the different lenses, they can't fix as many problems as the ones who are versed in technique and biomechanics, the ones who are versed in programming, the ones who are versed in nutrition, the ones who are versed in all the other little facets, psychology. If you only have the programming lens to look through, that's going to be your only thing that you A, think about and B, want to change.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas if you've got all these other buckets to pull from, you can figure things out on a much more holistic level.
Definitely. And not even just different buckets in the way of like nutrition, programming, this, that, health, whatever, but more so having different tools within those buckets as well. Like not just saying, well, this is just how I program. Saying, well, this is how I would usually program, but these are some other ways that I know we can possibly program for you. So even though it's not how I would typically do things, in this context, it might be the right thing for us to do, rather than having that very dogmatic approach of like, no, this is what we do and this is only what we do.
Yeah, just like in coaching, I'm sure you fit your process to the answers that you're getting back from the questions that you ask.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
the information that you get from your patients dictates.
Yeah, that
what you then
information
do.
is
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They're
I-
giving you the answers.
Yeah, I always say this, like they're telling you what they need.
Yep.
You just have to listen correctly.
Yep.
And the same thing applies with coaching. Back on the more broader topic of general powerlifting patients that you see, what are some of the most common injuries you typically see, and why do you think these are the case?
Well, it's definitely not a degloving injury.
You can go into that if you like.
I actually have seen another one after I did my injury.
On the leg?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, same mechanism.
I've seen fingers go.
Yeah, it's not nice.
No.
I would say that the most common things that I treat in powerlifters would be chronic and acute lower back pain, which may or may not have like a hip pelvic component as well. Shoulder issues, which may or may not involve the neck. Some knee stuff. I would say most of the knee pains that I see in powerlifters is more benign and just a result of overtraining as opposed to pathology. Maybe some elbow, hand stuff, but again, mainly just from shoulder related issues. I'd say they're the most common, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to give like a general advice to powerlifters listening to this as a physio, what would you say are the keys to staying injury free? Obviously, I think the first thing to say there is that it's impossible to stay injury free forever.
Yeah,
Something's
definitely.
going to pop up at some point. But what would be your biggest ways to prevent those things popping up more regularly?
I would say that even though we can't, like you said, completely annihilate the risk of injury, what you would be wanting to think about is, what am I doing and how much can I tolerate? Because it's when there's a discrepancy between those two things that we open ourselves up to the risk of injury. And so this is a really complex topic. Like, I could talk for hours on it. And so I know that most people aren't going to have that kind of knowledge.
We've got about an hour, so go nuts.
But I would say,
Joel's like, no.
have a
Get
look
out of
at,
here.
like, consider what you're doing and consider, can I recover from this? And talk to your coach about, you know, your training loads and what your expectations are, and whether what you're doing is sustainable over a long period of time. Look at the data, have a look at what your performance is trending like, listen to your body, become familiar with what it's like to feel when you're at certain sort of periods of training, and learn where your capacity is at and learn what your warning signs are. Look after yourself as best as you possibly can. Just look after those really low-hanging fruit of get as much sleep as you can, stay hydrated, look after your nutrition, move, not just in the gym, move outside of the gym. And if you do have any concerns, reach out to somebody who knows more than you.
Sounds so simple.
Yeah, but it's not.
I want the like, here's one hack.
Oh, you want like
I don't
clickbait.
Really, I don't really want that. No, I think that's
You just need to do your clams. That's all you need to do. Just
yeah.
do some hip external
Bring back
rotation.
the-
Everything will be fine.
Yeah, bring back mini bands.
Yeah.
Those was such a big thing for a while. I feel like they've just disappeared. I never see anyone do like booty band stuff anymore.
I feel like we're getting better at realizing what's dogma and what's real. And I think we're getting better at nuance.
I think the powerlifting community is. Maybe.
Maybe general public, not so much.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to tell because I think I've curated my Instagram algorithm so well that I don't see the nonsense.
Yeah, when's the last time you went into a commercial gym?
Actually, no, I weekly go to a commercial gym, but I don't train there. I take my clients there.
Oh, okay.
So I've got one client particularly who has cerebral palsy, and we go and we lift heavy weights. It's awesome.
That's sick.
And I just try not to pay too much attention to some chaos around me. But yeah, I think I'm so detached from that world of resistance training where there is a lot of people being led astray.
Yeah. So all of your answers to me have been very pragmatic, very logical, very holistic, and very like you called yourself a problem solver towards the start. I think is that what you called yourself?
Something like that.
Detective. You called yourself a detective.
Detective.
They've struck in me as similar qualities that I see in a good coach, and you are a good coach.
Thanks.
Well, as far as what I've seen.
From an outsider's perspective.
But you started off coaching yourself.
I did.
I want to talk a little bit about that journey. What was that made you want to coach yourself in the first place? And how did you find the experience initially?
I think it was a lot of curiosity, to be honest. And when I consider how I started powerlifting and how I really moved into the sport, it was mostly curiosity. And so I think I was at a point where I kind of knew enough to say, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can give this a shot. I'm somebody who who learns really well practically, and I like to experiment. And so I just saw the opportunity there and I kind of took it. And I think it just deepened my level of enjoyment in powerlifting because not only was I training, I was delving into the depths of what this sport is. And I think it was also a really good opportunity for me to apply my clinical knowledge as a physio, but within the context of performance and bridge the gap between those two knowledge bases that I had and try and work out, okay, what's consistent amongst these two areas, and how can I bridge the gap between rehab and performance in a way that maybe other physios can't.
So what kind of experience did you have in coaching or any personal training experience or anything like that before you started coaching yourself?
I had experience in prescribing exercise to people who were in the presence of pain. And at the start of my self-coaching journey, I became a person who was training in the presence of pain.
Gotcha.
And so I thought, hey, this is what I do for a job. I wonder if I can get myself out of this predicament.
And once you got healthy again, how did that process evolve into writing essentially a powerlifting program?
I think it just came from learning from people within the Australian powerlifting scene and looking at what other coaches were doing.
And you'd been coached up to that point as well by a few coaches as well. So just one.
Yeah.
So what did you gain from them, and what did you take away from them that helped you in that process?
I think I gained an understanding of just generally what was my capacity for training. And I sort of gained an understanding of what was creating positive adaptation. And I sort of started with that, and then I just started experimenting and just seeing what stuck. So I was just playing around with, I wonder if I can hit a little bit more volume here, what's that going to do? Or maybe if I add in a little bit more intensity, what's that going to do? Maybe I could try squatting 3 days a week, what's that going to do? And it was just very much like, let's just see what happens. And that's just look at the trends in my training. And if I sort of stuff it up, that's okay, because it's just me. And I'll try and fix it.
Yeah, and I think that's the process that all coaches go through as well. It's like we don't always get it right either.
Yep.
So like if we, add some volume in here and it ends up being too aggressive, we have to quickly realize and then backpedal and go back to where we were before.
Yeah.
Did you run into any roadblocks with self-coaching?
I did.
I know personally I would struggle with remaining objective with myself, and that's like the big reason why I've enjoyed coaching or being coached. It's because I need someone to call me out on my bullshit.
Yeah.
I need someone to hold me accountable, tell me when I'm being way too optimistic, or kick me in the ass if I'm being way too pessimistic. Did you struggle with any of that?
I did, but I think that was the benefit of doing it in the first place. Like, it's really hard to reconcile your emotional self with your logical self, and I don't think that you can ever completely reconcile those two people, but you can listen to both. And I think I learnt how to do that quite well, but where I consistently ran into issues was with my deadlift. So I initially injured my back deadlifting, and then I kind of got to the point where I knew what I could tolerate without pushing any boundaries, and I knew what was safe for me to do, and I didn't push beyond that. And so I saw for a couple of years that my deadlift kind of stagnated, and I was pretty complacent with that. I was like, I would rather not injure myself and just know that I'm just going to be able to consistently deadlift this much, and I'll just get everything else better.
Yeah. So you deadlifted 200 at 2022 Nationals in the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
I remember.
And my deadlift went from like 150 to 200 conventional very quickly. I switched. I'm trying to say swap and switch at the same time. Thanks. I switched from sumo to conventional once I started self-programming, and went from 150 to 200 on my conventional very quickly. And I think I was kind of like, oh, well, I've made quick enough progress here. I'll just stay here for a little bit. And then it just became 2 years.
Yeah, I remember that deadlift because Kate took the deadlift record just before that. And then you took it off her, and I was sad.
Did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got it back. So how did you break through that deadlift plateau then? How'd you figure it out? Because you've now done 212. Was it 211? No,
honestly,
212.
I think the biggest thing for me was the psychological win that I sort of had at the start of the year after my injury. After that injury, I think I sort of came face to face with like the potential of not being able to do this sport anymore. My injury was so rare, and no one could tell me what I had done to myself for weeks. And I didn't know if I was ever going to gain full bend back in my knee again. And I was like, I don't know what my life would be like without this sport. And I think instead of being frustrated with myself or scared or fearful of never being as good as I wanted to be, I was kind of like, if I can get back to doing this and just doing what I love, that's going to be enough for me. And so in changing my perspective and being much more compassionate towards myself and really paying more attention to loving doing what I was doing as opposed to really striving for particular outcomes, I wasn't as intimidated by the fear of not being good enough anymore. And so this fear of possibly facing injury again or having troubles with my back just didn't have as much purchase on me. And then so that kind of helped me to overcome the fear of lifting heavy weights on a deadlift. But then I also think that just having enough time away from pushing myself that hard, it was 3 months that I was really not doing too much in the way of like high specificity training. And I came back and I was like, I think I had enough clarity to be so distant from that fear that it was almost like a clean slate for me. But then also I just didn't have any back pain at all because I'd given myself an opportunity to really sit back from striving all the time. So I was competing all the time. It was like every 3 months you'd be like doing a local, then you do nationals, and then you do, local, then state, then nationals, then worlds, local, state, nationals, worlds. It was like every 3 months. So just to have that break, I think was really good for me. And then getting a coach who was going to push me harder than I was going to push myself, and knowing that if that person believed in me, then I could probably do it. And I could.
One thing that I've noticed about your deadlift is you tend to keep peak intensity a lot lower than most females.
Yeah.
And actually more similar to what more of
like
the
a
males
heavyweight
that
male?
I see. Not necessarily a heavyweight male, but you would do similar percentages of load to what like I would do.
Yep.
Do you think that more people, more females in particular, should lean into slightly, particularly conventional, should lean into slightly lighter top exposures?
Within my limited context of like just programming that for myself, I would say no, just because my deadlift, whilst I was doing that, stagnated for a really long time. And it's only been post-injury since I've also added a little bit more volume and higher intensity into my deadlift that it started to take off again.
Okay. So you felt like that adding that intensity back in has actually been beneficial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep, hugely.
So what are you going to deadlift next year then?
I thought we don't ask those questions, Alex. What's next? Load 220. You've just done 211. Load 220. What's next?
Was it 211?
Yeah.
I thought it was 212.
Well, Bo actually changed it right at the last second.
Right, changed it down.
Oh, he's a legend.
Do you think you would have got 212?
I think so, but for strength. But I'm not sure if I would have been able to hold on to it. I could feel my left hand was a bit weak for some weird reason. I never have any issues with grip at all.
There was a few grip slips on the day, so maybe it was the bar or...
I don't know, but I do wonder if my hand would have let go. And did I need 212.5? No. So I'm very happy with 211. I think particularly in the context of what our plan was for the day, it wasn't to be audacious and take milestone lifts. It was just build the total, because we know that at the end of the day, the people who are going to go 9 for 9 in this event are going to do quite well.
Yeah, well, there was actually only one. There was Josh Linivia. He was the only one who went 9 for 9.
I'm calling mine, what did you call mine? A gentleman's 9 for 9?
Yeah, I say this. I say this to my clients, like if they beat the rack call in their first squat and then we go up to the plan second anyway.
Gentleman's 9
it's
for
like
9.
You basically went 9 for 9.
Yeah.
And
I
you
just
can say the same about you.
Had some soft shoulders.
Because you still, what did you go up by? Another
I still
9
went up from
kilos or
202.5 to 211.
Yeah. So back to self-coaching for a bit. What kind of lifters do you think would do well self-coaching? Like, do you think it's a personality thing? Do you think it's a knowledge thing?
I think it's multifaceted. I think you do have to have a level of understanding of what are the parameters of performance and strength adaptation. I think you need to be curious and willing to make mistakes, and willing to be experimental and know that that's probably not going to give you the best results, but it's going to be enjoyable. Like, I think I could possibly be much stronger than I am now if I wasn't using all that time just trying to search my way through the darkness of like, what does good strength training look like?
I don't know about that, because first of all, you did really well.
Thanks.
And second of all, that's what coaches do anyway.
Yeah.
So like the coach, if you were working with the coach, they would be also
true, but like my
trying to-
knowledge is like down here and theirs is probably up there.
I think you're selling yourself short.
Thanks.
What about from a personality standpoint? What kind of people do you think would be well suited to coaching themselves?
I think you have to have a level of self-confidence and an ability to back yourself. I think you would need to be somebody who is audacious, and very goal-driven. It takes... When you have the accountability of somebody else on your team, you can look towards their encouragement to get through tough sessions, and moments in training where things aren't going the way that you want them to. You know, those days you don't want to go into the gym, you might do that for the benefit of the team as opposed to yourself. I think you need to be somebody who can, even when no one's watching, just do the work. And I think you maybe have to have the smallest amount of arrogance as well.
Have you got any of that?
Yeah, definitely. It's like on the border of confidence, like it's just about to be arrogance.
I don't think you can be a great athlete without a little bit of that. Like, I don't think you can be a truly top level athlete without an enormous amount of self-belief.
Yes.
And I think self-belief can look like arrogance, but I think there's difference between arrogance and confidence.
I would say confidence is knowing that you can do something because there's proof that you can do it. And I think you're right in the way that athletes have to have arrogance because sometimes there is no proof that what we are about to do is possible. And so if you're really relying on having some level of evidence, then you're never going to be able to step into the unknown. And that's where I think the arrogance really helps. So long as it's not untapped and not uncontrolled, I think it has to definitely be on a leash.
Yeah, I think when people get the label of being arrogant is when they don't live up to the talk.
Yeah.
They will talk up a certain level of performance or whatever. This is in any sport. And they never meet it. And then everyone's like, well, you haven't actually done the thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you talk a big game and you back it up,
Yeah,
I don't really think that that's necessarily arrogant.
Maybe there's another word for it. It's like radical self-belief instead of arrogance. Let's call it that.
Yeah, I mean, arrogance gets a bit of a bad rap. I don't know if it fully deserves the negative connotation. I feel like it's not a bad thing to believe in yourself and believe in your ability.
But it can definitely go too far.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's true. Okay, well, what kind of people do you think don't suit self-coaching? Like, who would you advise not to coach themselves? Other than people who have no idea about
like if you don't have any knowledge at all, probably don't do it. I think if you're struggling to just get to training as it is, and you're at a point in your training where you don't have the passion to be able to overcome the discomfort of having so much responsibility, probably don't do it. I think it takes an experienced athlete, not just somebody who has been training for a while, but somebody who has gone through the difficult adversities that come with pushing yourself really hard. And I think you have to have already demonstrated to yourself that you can rise up again, because coaching yourself is a lot of adversity.
Yeah. Well, I've actually just started writing my own program. I was talking to you about this.
Yeah, you were.
So I'm still getting coached by Matt. Like he's still doing my check-ins and he's still reviewing my technique and stuff. But I've written my last 2 training blocks and it's been really fun. I really enjoyed it.
It is fun.
I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep doing it, but I've really enjoyed it. So this moves you on to then now coaching a handful of, how many athletes you got now? 10 or so?
8.
Yeah.
Something like
and
that.
So did this stem from you coaching yourself and it going well and you wanting to coach others, or did people come to you and say, hey, I want you to coach me?
A bit of both. I think I was at a point where I'd gone to nationals and won my first nationals and won my second nationals, and then I'd gone to worlds and done really well, and then second worlds and done really well, and then I'd just won SBD Australia Cup, and I was like, I think I have enough tangible evidence to say that I'm okay at this, at least okay.
Not enough arrogance.
No. So I think I gained enough evidence to say that, you know, I'm probably at the point where I could probably offer a really good service to somebody. And I was also at a point in my physio career as well where I'd seen a lot of stuff and successfully treated a lot of injuries and become a fairly senior clinician, and I'd done my grad certificate in sports physiotherapy, and I just felt that this is also a great opportunity for me to delve more into the sport of powerlifting, you know, not just as an athlete or somebody who's going to referee. You know, I could have a lot of different hats in this community. And then I just didn't know how to action that. I was talking about it for a while. I was like, yeah, this is going to be something that I'm going to do. And then Beck Chambers messaged me and she was like, hey, I've got a question for you. I remember it very vividly because I was sitting there with Bar and I'm like, hey, Beck just messaged me. I have a weird feeling she's going to ask me to coach her. And the little dots come up. I'm like, I reckon that's what it is. And she asked me to coach her. And I was like, how can I say no to that? Because context,
She was
like the person that I saw online and I was like, whoa, what's she doing? Is that's a sport? Like, you don't just go to the gym and lift weights. You can compete in powerlifting. And so she was my first real inspiration. I really looked up to her. And so it really felt like a full circle moment where she was in my inbox asking me for help because she'd helped me so much and now I got to help her.
That's actually so cool.
So cool. Same with this. Like, I listened to your podcast in like 2019 when I was like in the gym and I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. I wonder how I'm going to get better at this. And you search the internet for resources and you look at social media and then all of a sudden I see Alex Hayes, weekly weights. And I'm like, I'm going to listen to that.
It really wasn't me. I was carried by Will. Like, let's be honest.
I wasn't going to say it,
Will
but you
carried
were.
me. Will carried me so hard.
But I used to listen to that all the time. And so it's kind of strange that I'm now on your podcast because I've been listening to you on podcasts for like 6 years. So that moment with Beck was very similar to this one that we're having now. And so I thought, like, this would be stupid if I didn't take this opportunity. It's kind of like a stars aligning for me kind of moment. And so I said yes to her and we hit the ground running. And so...
And she's doing really well now.
Yeah, she is. She's doing so well. She's going to compete in December.
Where at?
Alpha? Yeah?
Yeah?
I think.
December like 12th?
December 6th.
Oh, that's all in.
All in. I knew
yeah.
it started with A.
Yep.
It's one of the ones that starts with A up in Sydney. And then she gave me the confidence to take on more athletes because we were just doing so well. And then I suppose my team just grew very organically. I didn't really have to put myself out there too much. People kind of came to me. And the circumstances in which I had more people join my team were just very authentic. And these were people that I already really communicated well with. I'd either known them for a while or I'd seen them in the clinic and helped them with an injury. So yeah, now I've got a small team of athletes that I think are a really good fit for me. And they're doing well. And it's just been another way for me to learn even more about powerlifting. Not only as a coach, but also I learn more about what it's like to be an athlete because now I'm observing athletes. And you do that online, but I think people in the way that they share their experience of powerlifting online is very curated. So I get to see what it's like to be an athlete within the context of being a coach where it is you get to see everything. So it's been very, very insightful for me. And I've learnt a lot from it.
Yeah, and it seems like you're really enjoying it, which is that's the main thing. I am curious though, do you plan on reducing your clinic hours more and building your coaching and having more of like a 50-50 type of split?
I think eventually. So prior to June, July this year, I was working 41 hours in the clinic and then also trying to get all of my training done. And it was very hard, but I think I'd just been doing it for such a long period of time that was a level of difficulty that I was accustomed to. And since reducing my hours in the clinic, I now do like 33 hours in the clinic. I feel like I've got so much more to give. And again, having no trouble with managing training loads, and I can push the boundaries of what I'm able to do in training without sort of teetering on the edge of doing too much. And I'm getting really strong really quickly, even though I kind of felt like I was kind of coasting around the 500 kilo total for a little while there. It's just taken off again. And I love coaching. And I think for me, my fear is that it becomes too much of a job for me to enjoy anymore. And I don't know what that would take because I still love my job as a physio and I've been doing that for 7 years. So maybe it's never going to happen. I don't know. But I could imagine that I would move towards more coaching eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of coaching, obviously, and it doesn't ever feel like a slog.
Yeah.
Like there are weeks that are like, ugh, but I think everyone has that with everything.
Yep.
But I still absolutely love what I do.
Yeah, I get so excited about what my lifters are doing. I kind of Bo gets to talk to me about absolutely everything. It's like everything is just, it's almost like he's their second coach. But I'll just be like, in the same way that I would talk about my own PRs, I'm like, look what so-and-so did. Look at this. This is so cool.
And I get way more excited about my
the
clients'
secondhand
PBs.
excitement from what other people do is just so gratifying. It's not that you're taking responsibility for it, but it's like get to be a part of that person's journey because you get to see absolutely everything that they're doing in the lead up to what that moment has taken. And just to see that is, I don't think I could ever get bored of that.
Yeah, I look back at like all my favorite moments in powerlifting, and I'd say almost none of them are my own lifts anymore, which I think says a lot. Tell me a little bit more about the parallels between clinical work in physio and coaching. Like, what are the things that you take from what you've learnt being in the clinic so much that help you become a better coach?
So obviously physiotherapy and strength and conditioning are very different in a lot of ways. Physiotherapy is really underpinned by pathophysiology, biopsychosocial variables related to pain more so than function. We don't really sort of venture into the world of performance very much within the rehabilitation field. It's very much when you're training powerlifters, yes, but for the most part, it's really just returning people to normal daily function. But then you've got strength and conditioning, or training for a very specific sport that is really focused on skill acquisition, specificity. It's very much underpinned by the principles of strength training, as opposed to the principles of rehabilitation, which does involve strength, but strength is not the only thing that we're really considering there. But I'd say that the thing that probably, like conceptually, that is similar between those two areas is the fact that you've got somebody in front of you and you need to work out what can they tolerate, what can't they tolerate, where are they on that sort of spectrum of doing too much, too little, and how can I prepare them or change their circumstances such that I can set them up for success.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm not going to let you go just yet. You said you had a couple of questions for me. You said you didn't want me to do all the hosting. So
no, I was like, I'm coming. I'm going to question you as well. I'm going to put my detective hat on now.
All right, what have you got for me?
So we were talking about weekly weights before and how that was your first podcast.
Uh-huh.
And then when did that end?
So Will left the coaching space, I think it was like late 2021, mid to late 2021. He just up and left. And then we were like, well, I guess the podcast is done.
Just MIA.
Yeah.
Gone.
At that point, it was kind of, it had become monthly weights. Like it was very infrequent because like it was COVID. We'd kind of interviewed everyone we wanted to interview. Will and I moved further away. Like I had kids at that point, and it was just a lot harder for us to be in the same room because we used to do it in his house.
Yeah.
And I used to sit on his floor with my microphone, and he would sit at his desk, and we used to just riff. We couldn't like be in the same room very often anymore, so that it was kind of infrequent at that point. But yeah, I think we started in 2017.
Yeah, right.
And it
That's
went
a
all
long
the way
time.
to 2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did like 130 episodes.
Far out.
Yeah, not a bad stint.
No, that's really good.
Yeah, I feel like
I can't say I've listened to all 130, but I've definitely made a big dent in it.
Man, like if you go back and look at the people that we had on, like we had Eric Helms, we had Mike Israel,
yep,
we had
these are all ones
Matt
I've listened
Gary,
to. Yeah,
like Bryce Lewis, like Lyle McDonald, like all these people, like really big.
I think
names.
the one with Lyle
Very
McDonald's is actually maybe one of the first ones that I listened to.
That one went viral, like super viral. Yeah,
I think that's why I ended up finding you guys.
Yeah. So yeah, it was cool. I feel like we captured the podcast market when there was not that many podcasts.
Yep.
Whereas now it's a lot harder to get listenership because there's a million podcasts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what made you come back onto the podcasting scene?
So the biggest motivation was I hate doing content, but I like having conversations.
Yes.
And I wanted to use clips from the podcast as content. and not have to like sit and write scripts and film myself and then edit. So that was the biggest motivation.
What is it
Yeah.
about short form content that you don't like?
I don't like how you have to like use kind of clickbait to get people's attention, because obviously it's posted on Instagram, and the best way to like reel someone in is to say something ludicrous at the start. Like the fucking video I made about primers a few weeks ago that just went fucking nuts. And like, I just regret that, because like, I'm not really a very clickbaity person. I'm pretty like through the middle with most of my opinions.
Yeah, you really have to be quite dogmatic, don't you?
And that's
you
just
really
not what I'm
need
like.
to just light the match and watch it burn.
And I did that, and I regretted it straight away. Anyway, that's besides the point. But yeah, I don't really like the clickbait stuff. I don't like being dogmatic. It's just not in my personality. It's not in my beliefs.
Yep.
And I also don't like how polished it has to be, because I'm pretty like laid back. I just want to have a chat, and I don't want to have to like be buttoned up and like nail every single word and make it all efficient so that it fits in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because that's not really a reflection of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to contribute to the community in a positive way, and maybe short form content gets a lot of attention, but it's maybe not the most positive way for us to contribute in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think it misses a lot of nuance. And I think that if you do long form content, the people who listen to it actually gets to know you better.
Yeah.
Because you're able to express who you are.
And they're primed for wanting to learn and wanting to listen.
Yeah.
Whereas social media, people
different
aren't
audience.
on social media most of the time to be informed or educated. It's not the strongest educational tool. People are there to be entertained, and I think that's why you have to be entertaining with your short form content and almost spark rage or a big emotion, because that's what people are on social media for. They want to experience something emotional.
Yeah, exactly right. If someone sees that you have a podcast that's an hour, like they're committed to listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can kind of like make it how you want instead of making it to like cater to this audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the way that you've had this podcast, or you've been a podcaster for a really long time, you've also been in the sport for a really long time, I would consider you as somebody who is quite a prominent character within powerlifting in Australia. Would you consider yourself as an influential person within our scene?
I have never thought about it like that. I feel like my responsibility is mostly to my athletes and like how they view me and how I want them to view me, and how I want myself to be like a role model in a way. Like I want the characteristics that I display, like hardworking, I'm honest. I want that to be what they achieve to try to be, particularly my younger athletes. Yeah. But I don't really consider myself to be a person of influence. Like I've had instances in the past where I've said something and then it's gotten like a big reaction that's made me realize like, okay, I need to be a bit more careful about what I say. Yeah. But I don't know if I would really consider myself to be someone of influence. I don't really try to be someone of influence. I'm just trying to like,
it's almost like a secondary outcome as opposed to a primary goal.
Yeah, I'm not here to be an influencer. Like I'm not here to tell you how to think or anything like that. I'm more so here particularly in this podcast, to hear other people's stories.
So for people who are making content online, who may or may not want to influence people, what do you think we should be seeing more of online that is going to be useful, and less so about creating an online persona and getting attention?
So I think making sure that you actually think about what you're saying before you say it is super important. Like, is the opinion that you're about to give something that you actually believe in? And then having the ability to back it up with nuance, but also be willing to have your opinion challenged and also change it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest issue is when people pick a lane and then they are completely oblivious to anything outside of them, and then they get challenged, and then they just like are completely unwilling to concede when they're faced with information that says that they're wrong.
Yep.
Something that I've like always tried to do is understand different programming methodologies, different technique methodologies, and try to understand where people are coming from with what they say, so that I have a good understanding of like where this information comes from, so that I can help more people.
Yeah, definitely.
As opposed to, you know, following one person and doing everything the way that they say. You know, the more tools you have in your toolbox, something that you alluded to earlier, is so important, because it allows you to solve more problems.
Yeah,
if you can solve more problems, you can help more people.
Yeah.
And essentially that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to help people improve and get them better than they ever thought they could be. And that doesn't happen by accident. It happens by, you know, having lots of options and being able to solve many problems. So yeah, I think as far as like content goes, try to avoid stuff like what I did. Like literally the one time that I've ever done that. Try to avoid stuff like that. Because I think it actually...
It's just a distraction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about educating. It's about proving that you know more than others, or that somebody's wrong and you're right. And it's more antagonistic than it is about bringing up the standard.
Yeah. And I think like, you know, if I could have that post back and if I could redo it, I would be like, I would talk more about the broader picture of like, hey, this is why I think that training should be, you know, not based around trying to get top end performances every week, rather than this thing sucks because of this. It's because it was more about the other thing anyway. So yeah, I think like avoiding attacks on other people, avoiding attacks on other systems or other approaches is really, really important. And just like put your opinion out there without any of the other stuff. Like, hey, here's this thing that I like to use with my clients. See if it works for you.
Yeah, not how much attention is this going to get me on social media.
Not like, fuck this other thing that these other people are doing. I know everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on Grit Talk.
Thanks for coming on, Britt. That was really fun.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to be coached by you, how do they get in contact?
You can message me on my coaching Instagram, which is grit.strength.physio. You can also email me if that's what you want to do. It's grit.strength.physio@gmail.com. And more informally, you could probably just message me on my main lifting account, which is Brittany_.
And if they want to get in touch for an online physio consult, same way?
You can message me on my coaching Instagram. You can go and search up Physio Choice Frankston. You can book an online consult with me via our website, or you can also call our clinic. Again, just Google Physio Choice Frankston. Ring us. We'll sort you out.
Beautiful. Thanks, Britt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel.